Today, I want to talk about something called the hot and cold syndrome. Okay, and by its title, you can probably kind of guess along the lines of what it is. But basically, my goal for today is get you one step closer to finding balance. Okay, finding that proverbial balance everybody always talks about, everybody wants, but nobody seems to actually think it's realistic. And it is. Okay, now if you're sitting here, if you're listening to me talk, it means you are unhappy with your body in some degree, a lot or a little, right? And if you're unhappy with your body right now, listening to me talk, it means there's balance lacking. There's no balance in some area to some degree, okay? And if you want balance, you have to master your body. And if you want to master your body, you have to master your mind, okay? And to start mastering your mind, one of the steps is to learn about the hot and cold syndrome and acknowledge that it's there and realize that you are trapped in it, but we can break free. Okay. Now, to acknowledge this and start to kind of break apart this hot and cold syndrome, I want you to remember a time in the past when you tried to lose weight last. Okay. So, time in the past, I want you to think about it, when that was, what you tried, and how long did it last. Okay. What was that time? Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a couple months ago, whatever you tried in the past, okay? And or maybe it was to get fit or get strong. You had a goal and you tried something in the past, right? Everybody has. And now I want you to think back when it started to work. Okay, when either the scale went down, your clothes got looser, you started to get exciting, your goals became like within reach, you were excited. You remember that feeling you got before? You're like, oh, maybe this is it, right? And then boom, something happens, and now you're sitting here listening to me, whatever that was. Whether it was life got busy, you stopped seeing results, so you just gave up, you got distracted, you became uninterested, whatever it was, right? But remember in that moment how excited you are. Do we all remember that moment? That moment when you first start to see changes and you get excited and you get hopeful again. And so that's the hot phase. Okay? And just as quickly as you were hot, you switch to that cold. You become from passionate and motivated to just uninterested or completely unmotivated. And the problem with this, and I think you can all see this, is that when you are in that hot phase, okay, you feel invincible. You feel like this is going to be it. Nobody can stop you. It's uphill from here, right? And for some reason, in the moment of that hot, we forget that every single time in the past we've had hot, it follows by cold. We forget. We think sometime, for some reason, this time we're hot, it's not going to go to cold, right? For some reason, we've convinced ourselves in the heat of that hot that cold isn't going to come this time. But if history is any indication of what's going to happen, it always repeats itself. So there's a cold coming. But when we are in the intense heat of the heat, we forget that there's a cold. And then when the cold does come, it's devastating. And when you're in that cold, you can't figure out how you came, like how you ended up here. And then you live in your feelings and you keep trying to get back to that hot moment. Does that make sense? You keep trying to reach back to that moment where you were on fire. You were motivated, you were committed, you were inspired, you thought it was going to be it. And so when you're living so it's tricky when you go between these two extremes, because when you're hot, you get cocky, you get confident, you forget that there's cold coming. And when you're cold, you're always looking for the hot. And so you can never embrace what the cold is going to teach you, or even realize that you're trapped in this cycle of hot and cold. Do you know what I mean? And so the first step in getting out of this hot or not, okay, is to recognize that it is there. Can we agree that we have this hot or not in the past, in the present, and it will show up in the future, right? It's there. It's just a habit we've practiced for a long time. It's an automatic response and reaction. And an example of this is like when you start a program, you get excited, you see the results, you're hot, and then you stumble a little bit. Something happens, maybe you miss a workout or two, you snack too much, you stumble. And that hot it becomes warm. And then you tell yourself, oh, you know, it's my fault. I should be working harder. I just got to stick to the plan better, right? It's my fault. But then another stumble happens. You fail again a little bit. And then that warm gets one step closer to cold. And then before you know it, you went from hot right down to freezing cold. And every step you take, every stumble, every little failure, every little setback brings you to that cold feeling. And the cold feeling is, oh my God, I can't even, like, how did I get here? And then you feel hopeless again. You feel like you've repeated a cycle again and you're not going to get out of it. And you feel like you're stuck, and you sit around and you wait to be red hot again, right? We all wait to feel the heat again. But if you just tried to get that cold to warm instead of red hot, doesn't that sound easier? Right? A watched pot never boils. You know that one? You're not going to go from cold to hot. And the expectation is the one thing that's stopping you. It's the expectation that that's the way that it goes. Right? And then once you get to that cold point, you then stop being rational and saying, it's me not sticking to the plan. That's when you start to hear yourself say, oh, that plan's not for me. Right? You remember that? You ever been in that? Oh, that plan's not for me. It's because sure, maybe sometimes it could just not have been a good fit for you in your lifestyle, but most of the time it's just you not following through long enough to see results to get you back to that warm feeling, expecting that it should keep you hot all the time, right? And we usually get burned again and again and again. And we sit here and we wonder why, what happened, why can't I get motivated? Where's the heat? Where's the passion? Where's the fire? I did it before, right? Because we're trying to jump to somewhere instead of gradually get there. And another example, even outside of weight loss, ladies, is just life, right? I've had so many amazing clients, from personal training, from group fitness training, from when we own the gym, and now Fit Queen coaching and being a weight loss coach. We've had so many fabulous coaches. But I don't know if you guys ever heard this. Anybody can be liked, right? And for the most part, everybody can like you. But if you want to be loved, guess what comes with love? Hate. If you want to truly be loved and be impactful, you're going to get the hate with it. And so along my journey, I got the haters, right? As you become more successful, as you move on up in life, other people get resentful. And the reason I bring this up is because you can't have the cold without the hot in that middle. You can't have the love without the haters. And in my case, the haters, they are the people who are most susceptible to their hot and cold impulses. It's an impulse control thing, because we're animals, but we have a higher conscious, so we can recognize our animal instincts. And these haters, whether it's my haters, your haters, I'm sure you got haters in your life, or even just the random trolls on the internet, they can't see past one thing that was wrong. They see the one thing that went wrong, and they forget about all the other amazing things that you did, that someone else did, or that has happened in their life. And what happens is they live in this intense emotional state where they react instead of respond, right? And what one do you want to be? Which one sounds more palpable? The person who reacts all the time irrationally, or the person who responds thoughtfully and calculated? Which one do you want to be? The choice is easy when you present it like that, right? But here's the thing, right? Even I still judge people automatically, subconsciously, right? And I have to catch myself and remember, oh, it's just one thing bad. Here are all the good things they do. And the reason I bring this up is because if that is how we automatically treat others for doing one thing bad, and we have a hard time forgetting about that one thing, well, what happens when we do one thing bad? When we slip up once, when we fail once? How do we treat ourselves? We judge ourselves just as hard, if not harder, than how we judge the haters, or how the haters judge us, right? No one's your greatest hater better than yourself. Like, you are your biggest hater and your biggest support system. It's crazy how these extremes are always fighting. But it's a reaction versus a response issue. So if you want to stop getting burned and stop being oblivious in the hot phase and hopeless in the cold phase and keep that constant warm phase, it's about learning to respond instead of react. And that's one of the golden five, is face facts, right? Our G5 of weight loss. Face facts. Look at the facts. Make factual based decisions instead of emotionally charged decisions. You don't want to be the person that reacts to everything, because when that happens, it makes you react to yourself even more instead of responding to your situation calmly and calculated and thoughtfully. And that becomes an issue, right? And a really good story, I actually just heard this story and I really, really love it, and I want to share it with you guys. And it's called The Deer and the Hunter, okay? And so there's this deer walking through the woods, and all of a sudden he catches a glimpse of his antlers in the water. He sees his reflection, and he stops for a second, and he gets kind of hypnotized by his antlers. And then all of a sudden he looks down, and then he sees his legs in the water. He sees a reflection of his legs, and he's like, oh, my antlers look good, but my legs don't. My legs look scrawny, they look weak. And then all of a sudden, an arrow swishes past his head, and he turns and he sees a hunter. And so he sprints away, he makes it to safety. Once he realizes he's safe, he calms down, and he looks down at his legs, and he's like, my legs are what got me to safety. But then all of a sudden he hears a noise behind him. He turns his head, his antlers get stuck in a branch, and the hunter gets him. And so if we kind of pick apart this story, it tells you that your biggest weaknesses can be your biggest strengths, like the deer's legs. And then your biggest strengths could end up being your biggest downfall, like the deer's antlers. Does that make sense? And so if you constantly live in these extremes where you are blind to rational response and facts, you end up digging your own grave. And it's almost like you die before you actually die, because you live a life stuck in the same destructive patterns and you don't even realize it. And you sit there and go through the exact same failures over and over again, pulling your hair out, wondering what's wrong, when it's just the fact that you are reacting too much. You're not trying to find that warm. You're in the hot phase, you're too cocky, you're staring at your antlers. And in the cold phase, you're not appreciating your legs. Does that make sense, ladies? So it's a really cool concept. You know, we hear it all the time, like, don't rely on willpower, don't rely on motivation. And that's a great concept, and it's something you should practice, but how do you practice that, right? How do you keep going when you really don't feel like it? Well, if you realize that you're in a cold spot, and stop expecting to switch back into a hot spot right away. Your goal is warm. Find that lukewarm temperature, keep going, appreciate the legs, watch out for your antlers, the hot and the cold. Appreciate everything as a whole. Appreciate your journey, appreciate how far you come, appreciate, all the shit that's going to be thrown at you along the way, but get excited about it, because it's going to make you stronger than you ever thought. It's going to make you stronger than you could ever imagine. If you plateau, if you fall back, if there's horrible habits that you just win sometimes. You battle them and they just win sometimes. It's okay. What is the other option here, ladies? There is none. Dust your shoulders off and keep going. Pull up your bootstraps and keep going. Because failure is inevitable. Falling back into that cold and being tricked by that hot is inevitable. That's how we've lived. That's probably how you've lived your whole life. That is how I lived my entire life. And only over the past couple years am I trying to actively pull myself out of the hot and cold. Whether it's obvious or not, every action you make is fueled by an emotion. And if you don't have control over your emotions, or if you react to the emotion instead of respond to it, well, then the outcome is always going to be an extreme. Whether it's a big extreme or not, it will always be an extreme. And so if you're letting emotions guide you in a destructive way, in a way that is intense, well, then you're going to run into some problems when the intense good turns into the intense bad. Because bad is hard enough on its own. And then add in, people not supporting you, work getting busy, getting sick, getting injured. Then add all the shit that life likes to throw at you when things get hard. It likes to test you. And when you're down, it'll kick you a little bit more, but it's a test. And every time you find yourself reacting or having these explosive thoughts or not taking time to think about something or think about why you feel a certain way, you're being blinded by the hot or falling victim to the cold. And looking at the facts and looking at your journey as a whole instead of an end goal, looking at your journey as a whole is what brings you back to the warm. Looking at your journey as a whole. We all have goals. We all have this dream we're trying to achieve, and we all want to achieve it yesterday, right? But it's not the goal that's going to be the most fulfilling part. It's about the journey to get there, how strong you become, the people you meet, the mind shifts that happen. It's about all the amazing things that you have to become to reach that goal. And if we keep looking to an end, we think it ends. We think something stops, and then we don't embrace the journey, and then we don't try to accept the journey. And then everything that happens along our journey is a good or bad thing, because it's either moving us towards our goal or not moving us towards our goal. But that's not it. Everything that happens to you, good or bad, is moving you towards your goal. You just have to choose to look at it that way. Does that make sense? And when you do that, you're not working towards an end goal, because you can't just only see an end in sight, because that's when things become good or bad, hot and cold. Either it's a yes towards my goal or a no towards my goal, but that is not the case. It's not black and white like that. And when you start to look at things like that, like this is good, this is bad, that's when you start to feel really guilty, right? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done this. That's when we get really hard on ourselves. And when we get hard on ourselves, that's when you get overwhelmed and you get clouded and you don't know what step you should take next. So you take no steps, because that's the easiest thing to do. And if you take no steps, you lose the progress you just got, and then you're back in that cold state trying to find the hot real quick to get you back on track, or overcompensating, right? We wasted, I plateaued for 3 weeks, got to work out double this week and make 3 weeks worth of progress up in a weekend. But it doesn't happen like that. Everything you did didn't take you further away from your goal. Your goal is not just a number, although that's a big one, but that can't be the only thing we're working for. So ladies, I'm asking you, what is your goal besides the number? The number is important, okay? And it's funny too, even society is in extremes, right? Society was like, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. And then it was, don't look at the scale, don't look at the scale, right? It lives in those extremes too, but the number can be warm. So other than the normal, other than the number, what is your goal? Do you have one? Maybe you don't yet. And that's okay. Carolyn, happy and healthy, be on track. Consistent and maintain. That's a great one. Be consistent. That is a huge word. Can you honestly say, anybody on this call right now, can you honestly say you have been consistent with anything in your life? Anything. Consistent effort across the board. Anything. Raising your kids, the effort you put into work. Sometimes work takes more effort takes more attention than raising your kids. Crazy. Sometimes work takes more attention than meal prepping. Consistency is a huge goal to thrive for. And in those moments of cold, of, oh my God, I did something that doesn't align with my goal because I'm still looking at the goal as the end, you can look at, hey, I was more consistent this time. Sure, my number doesn't line up, but I was more consistent this time. I didn't fall off as many times, or I didn't fall off as long. or I made healthier decisions. Because you only lose the game if you stop playing. But we forget once we lose, or once we don't win, or we fall off path, we forget that we can get back on. It's okay to get back on. We forget that. When we hit that fork in the road of give up or keep going, we forget that keep going is an option. Right? And that's half the battle is, I can take a step forward. Oops, forgot that. Let me just step forward. It is that simple. And that's why coaches are so important. We remind you, hey, there's another option. Hey, are you rushing towards your goal? Hey, are you living in your feelings? Are you reacting or responding to the number on the scale? Are you reacting or responding to you missing a workout? There is no solution to be found in reactions. In fact, if you allow a reaction to come out, it's you basically saying, I'm not looking for a solution. I just want to vent. Right? And is venting productive? No, maybe it'll make you feel good. Maybe you can vent to begin with, but it better lead to a solution. Otherwise, why are you here? Why are you here? If you're just going to vent an excuses here, excuses there, play the victim, woe is me. Everybody on this call and everybody listening to this video has a super special story. So unique and full of so many struggles and victories and triumphs. It's so unique. And whatever your circumstances, wherever you come from, your happiness is possible. No matter how dark your past is, no matter how much shit you've gone through, it's possible. And in those moments of reaction, you just have to remember that is society, that is your haters, that is everybody trying to pull you back to their level. And are your haters where you want to be? Do you want to look like them? Do you want to have the friends they have? Probably not. Or hell no. Most likely, hell no. You don't want to be like those haters. And the only thing that separates them is the ability to respond versus react. That's it. And slowly getting away from that hot or cold. There's always a pendulum swinging between the two, but that swing will become smaller and smaller. And that's when you have more control. And that's when you fall off, get back on, and you reach your goals quickly, as opposed to expecting to go from hot to cold, right? We can't sit around and wait for the right time. You can't sit around and wait to be motivated, right? You can't on a Sunday night say, I missed my workouts last week. I'm going to get them in this week. What does that mean? What is that? Where's your schedule? Where's your solution? I'm going to get them in this week. Okay, where? When? How long? What? Right? We have the best intentions, but sometimes the way that we create intentions is the same trap that we've been stuck in. And the way that we create these solutions in our mind is the problem to begin with. Does that make sense? The way that we are coming to our own conclusions on our own solutions that we should make a move on, that's the problem. The thought process we are creating solutions with is part of the problem. Does that make sense? Because the place where those thought process is coming from is that hot and cold place. That's the only thing you've known. So you think that's the only thing that will fix it. But it hasn't done that so far. Right? So really quickly, ladies, I want to see what your takeaways are in the comments. So comment in the comments. Let me know your biggest takeaway. So what did you learn? What did you like? What are you going to implement? Do you find that you react more than respond? Do you feel like you're hot and cold? Do you feel like you're getting closer to that warm? What do you feel? Is this eye-opening? Are you further away than you thought? That's also too. It doesn't always have to be positive. What do we think? Tej, Ange, Deb, Disha, Camille, Beth. What do we think? Because, hot and cold will come. That cold will knock on your door. Stop and smell the roses. Enjoy all things we experience, good or bad. They take us to where we need to go. Absolutely. I'm struggling between hot and cold. Need to work towards warm. Absolutely. And that's what it is. It's working towards warm. It's not one day waking up being warm. That's not it. Hard on myself. Need to realize that it's all part of the process. Not be so hard on myself. That's it. Make me realize that I fall off, I can get back on and still be successful. Yeah. It's just sometimes it's just as simple as, someone giving you permission saying, it's okay that you failed. It's actually a good thing. You're stronger now. Let's get back up. Sometimes that's all you need, right? And that's why that hot and cold is also very dangerous, because when we're hot, we think we are good. We think we know it. We think we don't need help. And then we make future decision based on that in the heat moment. Do you know what I mean? We're like, okay, cool, I'm done, bye. I got this. And then when we hit the cold, we are unprepared. We don't got a jacket. We don't got mittens. We don't got any of it, because in the hot, we thought we were good. It's like if summertime rolled around and we threw out all our winter clothes because it was hot now. Cold is coming. Just because it's not there doesn't mean it's not going to come. And that makes a difference from being prepared all year round. Not just have the body you want for a month, but the whole damn year, your whole damn life. That's the goal. Commit. I'm very reactive. Yep. But the first step is realizing that you're reactive, right? The number isn't so important. It's the feeling of happy and good about myself. Exactly. Reaction never leads to solutions. Expending more energy towards things with a result and an outcome. Yeah. A tangible result, like saying, I feel good. I think I'm losing weight. That's not tangible. That's not concrete evidence that's going to give you strength through the cold. It's not. Once cold, it is hard to get into warm. Yes, exactly. Need a little push. Usually that's true. And that's another reason why coaches are so important. When you do hit that cold, you are capable of getting into that warm very quickly. But sometimes you do need a push. You do need a push to just, let's get that warm started. And then you can go. And then you can take it and go by yourself. But you always need that backup support, because winter is always coming. Just because it's summer doesn't mean it's going to skip through. And if you're Canadian, winter is 8 months of the year. So be prepared.